And welcome to the Dark Mirror Radio Show. And as you can tell, we've got a strange episode today, Stranger Things. We'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, how is everybody? Nobody watching? No? Good, as per usual. We got all the late arrivals coming in. Ugh, I don't know. So how's you? What have you been up to? Any more books come out yet?
Oh, no. Unfortunately, not yet. I'm still post-production of book 4, Job Done. Just had loads of different things going on over the last couple of weeks, so things have all been put on hold at the moment. Yeah. I've just had to have a new consignment of books delivered this morning, ready for events and paranormal convention up in Skegness on the 17th. So I had to make sure I had the books in on time for that. So it's been a bit of a mad rush. So I haven't been able to get any more written so far. I know, can't get the staff, but it's been chaotic. I've had personal things to deal with here, and then I've had my mum and dad are moving.
Cleared up now? Has it cleared up now? Your personal things? Has it stopped stinging now?
Almost. And my mum and dad are moving to Corfu in the next month or so. So we've been down at our house clearing everything out and getting things sorted. Because we're going to be moving in. So going back to the ancestral home. But the good thing is I'll have my own little man cave where I'll be able to sit and write my stories. So
yeah, well, I'm coming down to see you guys anyway. So
cool. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet.
Well, I've got my first investigation of the year tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night. RAF.
Neater's Head.
That's the one. I knew I'd forget the bloody name. RAF.
Which was one of my choices when I first joined the RAF back in '91. That was one of my choices that I was going to go to. One of 3 bases that I was going to be stationed at.
So if there's any funny business there tomorrow night, I know damn well it was you that set it in motion.
It's possible.
And as you notice, I am no longer at the table.
Yay!
It's just me here now, so and I bought the new massive corner unit thing, and the dog ghost is shedding flipping hair everywhere. It's supposed to be brown, but it keeps looking white. The amount of times I hoover up the hair. Yes, I've got a ghost hunt tomorrow, Andy. RAF Neater's Head. So yeah, I thought I'd recline in style rather than sit there hunched up all the way there. So, well, that rubber plant should be me. So there you go.
So you've got your first one of the year tomorrow.
Yeah.
And Truth Beyond Paranormal are back filming again on the 3rd. So the week after, we're down in an area of northwest London, location undisclosed. So that's all sort of getting quite spooky now because we've been in talks with Amazon Prime, and they're up for having us on their platform. So we've now been put in the process of going on IMBD?
IMDb, Internet Movie Database.
Yeah, we're being put on that. So's my Spookinor. He's ready for the productions of the films for those. So it's all getting sort of quite realistic now, and it's I think sort of the shock's starting to set in a little bit. And I sit back and think to myself, oh my God. Well, I mean, it's weird how sort of you can go from one situation and then sort of get really, really low, and then all of a sudden something happens that turns it all around. And I've been grateful to everybody that's supported me in the books and that in the process. So it's just really weird how it's happened.
No, good on you. I mean, it's like like you say about when you get something that knocks you flat, like it has done the last couple of months. So hopefully things will just something decent will be around the corner soon. I hope.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Let's, good evening, Andy, Helen, Taylor, and everybody else who's here who I can't see because you're not signed in on the thing, so I can't say hello to you because it didn't show who you were. But thank you very much for joining us and watching. You missed the beginning. We had the theme tune. Oh, bloody hell. Hang on a minute. 'Tis my brother from across the pond, Mr. Lynch. How the very devil are you doing there, young sir? He's really good mate of mine, and we sometimes do shows together, and he's completely bonkers. Very good. He's a good dude. Very good dude.
is he as bad as us? Are you as bad as us, Jay?
Probably worse, I think. Probably worse. But yeah, what was it again? Yes, you missed the Stranger Things theme tune we had playing at the beginning.
There we go. Here it comes again.
All right. Yeah, this might give you a little hint as to what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm talking of Stranger Things. Taylor May is in the chat room as well.
There we go.
So there you go. Little hint as to what we're going to be about tonight. I'm glad you managed to stay out of Facebook jail there, Jay. It's nice, isn't it, when it happens? So, yeah, we're going to talk about Camp Hero, which, if I remember rightly, Stranger Things, the experiments on psychokinesis and children and that, was allegedly happening in Camp Hero. So we will be talking about that tonight. Sounds good.
Yeah,
cool. So
the claim
in the car.
The claim is that Stranger Things was actually based on true stories. Was based on Stranger Things. So they've obviously done some research into it, and obviously Camp Hero and what they class as the Montauk State Park is all part and parcel of what has been going on since the 40s, it is revealed.
Well, it used to be a lighthouse. Camp Hero used to be a lighthouse on Montauk Lighthouse in 1792. And then the military took it over. It's on the tip of Long Island, New York, the eastern tip. So just a tip. See, I don't know, Jay Lynch. See, you're an American, and you guys are still using just a tip.
It's weird because it is actually part of obviously the state park, and they have so much stuff going on there that you wouldn't have thought that it would have been subject to sort of like clandestine goings on.
To be honest, every single government has so many black ops and this, that, and the other, and all that stuff going on. There's so many black sites out there, you know. And as Jay said, it's just a little lie. But yeah, so Camp Hero was originally a fort, wasn't it? It was. I'm just reading about it now. The Navy established Naval Air Station Montauk, and then it was upgraded to Fort Hero, and then it was renamed Camp Hero after Major General Andre Hero. Do you know what? I wondered why it was called Hero. I never knew that was somebody's surname.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit weird actually because it sounded like a Japanese surname.
No, it wasn't named after a Japanese general saying hello to everybody. All right.
Well, no, I mean you think the name Hero. That sounds very much like.
You see what I mean about Jay? He just takes the piss the whole time.
You know, it sounds like a Japanese name. And I looked at it and thought, okay.
Hero, I'm Hero, or manga, all that lot. Yeah. I thought you were going, hurrah, but wasn't sure.
No, I'm not being naughty.
Sorry, my lisp kicked in then. I couldn't like that.
But I mean, it's a very strange place, and I don't understand how they can hand it over to the state and it be now part of this massive park, and yet the biggest thing that makes it so obvious, and they've left it there is the radar.
Yeah, but it's still fenced off. It's still behind loads of fencing, and it's because it's still behind fencing, and you can't get in and everything. Yeah, there it is.
But you can still see the thing.
That started the conspiracy theories off. Was that?
And then they got the door there as well. So
278-acre site. It's crumbling, smothered in overgrowth, and completely off limits, apparently. And it was finally opened to the public as a state park in 2002. But there's all the catacombs and tunnels and rooms underneath it that is supposed to be full of weird and weird.
Well, the rumor was they filled it full of cement, the underground section. However, there are manhole covers that lead underneath, and the manhole covers themselves have not been covered up, which you would have thought if you'd have filled the site with cement, you would cover up those manhole covers because there'd be no need for them.
Well, there is that, but we all know what I just realized it was disclosure day today. After I'll check on that in a minute. We all know what governments are like for saying, or for basically going, look at my little hand, whilst you don't watch what this big hand's doing. So,
Yeah.
So, oh my God, and I've just realized something. Take my little hand, it's my strong hand. Stop that. Anyway, name the movie. Let me just have a bit more. Oh, the Philadelphia experiment was supposed to have been carried out, and we all know about the Philadelphia experiment, but the basis of the Philadelphia experiment for the invisibility was supposed to have started at Montauk or Camp Hero.
Yes.
Preston Nichols was born in Long Island, New York. He received degrees in parapsychology, psychology, and electrical engineering. After graduating, he went into defense electronics and worked at Brookhaven National Laboratory. In 1968, Preston's involvement with Montauk, or Camp Hero, began. He became involved with the tail end of stealth research at AIL, and he was told that stealth research started right after the Philadelphia experiment. And Preston claims to have actually read the final report of Project Rainbow, which is also the Philadelphia experiment. And the report named the Cameron brothers as being the Navy liaison in the experiment. And the Cameron brothers were to do with Camp Hero. So there's a tie-in.
A big tie-in.
Very big tie. It was a big cable tie. That's what it was. Yeah.
But the weird part of one of the so-called allegations, the reason why this whole place was shut down was because during the Philadelphia experiment, obviously the people that were involved in that apparently had managed to open a wormhole back to 1943, where they had to be cautious for Duncan not to actually meet his earlier self.
Do you reckon they did?
Well, the problem is it's like the disclosure business, isn't it? After all this time, they're finally being forced to admit that, that there are UFOs out there, but they're stalling and holding the truth back on purpose still. But they reckon that is one of the reasons why they shut things down on there. So they closed everything down, took out all the buildings out on the surface apart from the radar. They took out all of the mechanics from the radar, but enabled it to move still in the wind to stop it from falling over, and handed the surface part of the park back to the state. Only the underground isn't.
I like the wording there. Handed the surface part of the estate back.
The surface of that area has been given to the state, which is now the park. But the underground section is still under military control. Now, if they
filled in with concrete.
If they filled it with cement, why still keep it under military control? They've destroyed everything underground, apparently, and filled it all with cement. So why not hand everything back instead of just going, right, well, you've got above ground and we've got below ground?
There you go. The disclosure report full report hasn't come out yet. It's still whatever time it is over there. What's that? 5 o'clock over there, 5 p.m. something like that. But apparently it's not come out yet. I reckon it's going to be. They're going to filibuster. They're just going to filibuster. That's all they do, and go no. Well, the thing is, the report was already leaked to the New York Post, wasn't it? And in it, they said, "Oh no, we haven't seen anything to convince us it comes from another planet." Yet the whole of the rest of the world is going, "It's from another planet."
Yeah,
because we had this last week, didn't we?
Yeah, I've just found a thing on Road Trippers. Actually, I'm going back to this business because I'm actually getting more intrigued into this Camp Hero. The official government issued blueprints are saying otherwise regards to what's going on with the area. Gaetano and others are obsessed with discovering what they believe is still hiding underground in Camp Hero. Gaetano has explored the park hundreds of times, but has never been granted permission to go beyond the surface. The official word is that there is nothing underground. He says in dark files, but I really think there is something to hide there. Before Camp Hero became an official park, Brian Minnick and his friends were able to explore inside the radar tower. While they never found any definitive evidence of a government cover-up, he did discover documents and sealed entrances suggesting that the infrastructure of Camp Hero is far more complex and the base operated for much longer than officials will admit. In the found records of mass quantities of food ordered at the base in the late 80s, long after the military had left Montauk, believers point to Minnick's photos of rooms with brightly painted walls and psychedelic patterned wallpaper as evidence that the captive children were also subjected to acid tests.
See, unfortunately, that wouldn't surprise me because that was originally done as to try and help cure shell shock, wasn't it? And shell shock, PTSD. Hang on a second, what's Jay just said? In the official statement is there is nothing there. That definitely means something is there. You said, I mean, if they're going to turn around and say, good golly gosh, we filled it with concrete. Now, ding dong, dingly dong, you don't need to go down there now. Yet they handed the park over so you can go to the top bit. But if it's filled with concrete, then why would they ban anybody from going underneath the top? If it's filled with concrete, you wouldn't be able to get in.
Yeah.
It's the same as so many. I mean, we've talked, not just yourself, but over the years that the show's been running, we have talked so many times about all these different black sites and things. All these sites that the public see as just a normal army base or whatever, and there's all this nonsense going on underground. There's a lot more that I've been learning about over the last month about certain underground things that the Nazca lines, there's supposed to be underground stuff. I think we spoke about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We spoke about the surface stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be an underground base at Nazca lines. And I was actually watching something the other day with a whistleblower who's been there. Makes for a very interesting watching and listening. Not sure if all of it is 100%, but what I've heard is intriguing. I don't think I can mention it on here for obvious reasons, but there is supposed to be not just that place at Nazca lines, but all over the world. And all these tunnels and stuff are starting to network in and link up. Hang on a second. What's that Jay said? The best way to tell if the US government is lying, investigate the opposite of what they're saying. They're completely into reverse child psychology. Well, look at Trump.
It wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, well, again, it's like all this going back to the full disclosure. They allegedly leaked the full disclosure thing, saying, we don't think it's from aliens or people from other planets. And then a week bloody later, their law lords, or whatever you call them over there, the ones that make the rules, the Senate court or whatever, said, we think aliens are a threat to our defense. What aliens? You just said a week ago that nothing you've seen says that they come from another planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you really want to work out what he was saying. Anyway, back to Camp Hero. And we were talking about Duncan Cameron. Now, Duncan Cameron was also found to have had psychic powers, amongst everything else. So this is the guy who's to do with developing stealth technology, and he has PhDs and this, that, and the other, and diplomas in parapsychology, psychology, electronics, and he's also supposedly or allegedly found to have had psychic powers. And he became the focus of many of the Montauk chair experiments. And apparently he could manifest objects just by thinking about them while in the Montauk chair. Ooh, now the Montauk chair here we go. Here's the sciencey bit, all right? We can do science here. The Montauk chair used subtle quantum fields to read a person's thoughts. The psychic would lay in the chair, go into the trance, and a group of coils pick the emanations up. And a bank of radio receivers designed by Tesla, awesomeness, would pick up and digitize the thought, turning thought into computer code, and then the radar tower was used to turn thought into reality. So, long story short, psychic goes in a chair, goes in a trance, thinks about something, and the radar dish allegedly manifests it. We were talking about some of the when was it? A few weeks ago, wasn't it? We were talking about the satellites they've got now that can beam stuff down that would make you think you're looking at a car or a person or something there, and it looks tangible.
Yes.
This was also mentioned in the things that I saw about the whistleblower. He mentioned himself and a few other people from around the world who've been whistleblowers working on these satellites, and that the technology is real and it's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
So
again, how did we get that technology in the first place?
Well, reverse alien tech.
Exactly.
Because the underground and black ops sites are supposed to be something like 80 to 100 years ahead of us with their tech, but they won't release it, which I think is a bit of a pain in the bum. And Jay has said acid can cause that, and Star Trek replicators. I'd love one of them. I would. Oh, sorry. We keeping you up, mate?
Sorry.
Sorry. No, you can carry on. I've done enough wittering for now. It's your turn.
Lack of oxygen. No, I'm reading through actually. Roadtrippers.com have actually done quite a big article about Camp Hero, and they've actually gone into quite a fair bit of the history about the place, saying about when it was first built back in 1942. 1942 as a coastal defence station. It had 3 gun batteries, 2 with 2 16-inch guns and 1 with 2 6-inch guns, which obviously was set there to
a bit of damage.
Was obviously set there to defend New York against any possible attack by German ships and submarines. And they were all closed to visitors and tightly sealed, but somehow people managed to write stuff in there like "stranger, help me" and things like that. So someone must have got in there. In a move that perhaps planted the seed of future cover-up theories to flourish, the government attempted to disguise the base as a coastal fishing village. Official military structures were designed to look like cottages with fake wooden siding and painted on windows. The gymnasium was disguised as a church, and it can still be seen today in Camp Hero's decaying downtown, alongside the commissary, bowling alley, dining hall, barracks, and exchange store. The army deactivated the base in 1947 and removed its coastal artillery. In 1951, Camp Hero was transferred to the Air Force. Radar was installed, and anti-aircraft artillery training began. The Air Force remained active at Camp Hero until 1982, and in 1984, the land, deemed environmentally important due to its ecosystems and animal life, was donated to the National Park Service. The NPS transferred ownership to the New York State Parks Department, and Camp Hero State Park officially opened to the public in 2002. But what I find quite amusing is the guy that has written this, and I found this quite, or woman, I don't know whether it was guy or woman. No, look, I reckon it's a woman, Alexandra, has actually stated that she found it quite amusing as she paid her $8 entrance fee to be given a brochure explaining what to do if she came across any unexploded ordnance.
But I thought it all been shut down and cleared out, and there was nothing on the top.
Oh yeah, they'd have had the best part of 20 years to sweep the entire area and get rid of any ordnance that may have been left behind. But no. But then what I find is more worrying is Lyme disease.
Oh yeah, get that through ticks, don't you? Ticks from.
And they say perhaps the greatest danger to visitors of Montauk is the least mysterious of all, ticks. Signs warning hikers to beware of the tiny blood-sucking arachnids are as common as no trespassing signs at Camp Hero. Tick bites and the resulting diseases are far scarier to me than mind control or time travel. In fact, maybe one day someone can go back in time and prevent the government from creating Lyme disease in the Plum Island research laboratories, located suspiciously close to Old Lyme, Connecticut, where the disease first appeared.
Well, what better way to keep somebody away from an allegedly closed down, abandoned and filled in with concrete site than to release a load of bloody ticks with Lyme disease?
Exactly.
You ain't got to pay for security guards or anything. Those things will self-regulate, and you don't want to get bitten by one of them, so you're going to stay the hell away.
Yeah. So what better way to keep someone away? You know, it seems quite plausible, to be honest.
Well, I've just found we've explained what that chair, the Montauk chair, was and is and was used for. I love the way that the Montauk chair was used in conjunction with stuff that was built and made or patented by Tesla. I just love the way that it's been involved with Tesla's stuff.
It's probably because of the energy levels required to be able to use the chair. And you also have to consider that once they had apparently moved on to the later stages where they actually had a power source on either end of the timeline. They had one in, I think it was it the 60s? And then the wormhole would appear back in 1942. And apparently they both ended up, or 1943, both ended up with a power supply at either end.
Well, hang on a second. Jay just said a little tick and some Lyme disease isn't going to stop someone that's looking to prove a cover. No, you're right. But it will stop the majority of normal people from accidentally stumbling on something they wouldn't. You know, if it's somebody like you, Wayne or myself or you, Jay, you know, we just go boof and we'll go in no matter. What I was going to say is the same stuff from Tesla was also used in the Philadelphia experiment. Now, the first experiment that was apparently done at Camp Hero with the Montauk chair was called the Seeing Eye. And apparently with a lock of a person's hair or other appropriate object in his hand, remember the people had to lie in this chair and it would do its thing. Duncan could concentrate on the person, be able to see as if he was seeing through their eyes with the help of the chair. Hearing through their ears and feeling through their body. He could actually see through other people anywhere on the planet, allegedly. And that was the first experiment that was ever done with this Montauk chair, which was based on Tesla's technology. Which is a little... Do you know what this all reminds me of?
Go on.
Stargate, the one where they're in the ship. You know, and they would do those stones and they could see and hear and feel through somebody's body down on Earth.
Yeah.
What was it called? Not Stargate Atlantis, not Stargate.
Wasn't it SG-1?
No.
One of the later ones, wasn't it?
It's the one where they're on the ship. They've got the spaceship from the people that made the Stargate, and they're going all round the universes and galaxies and everything. Whatever, it was the name of the ship. It was Stargate, and then the name of that ship. But they used those stones to be able to see their family and loved ones. Do you remember that?
No. Shit. Was it Stargate Universe?
Yeah, it could be that one. Yeah, it's the one where they're on the creator's ship and they were going everywhere. But it just remind me that is identical to their thing. They would use they had these like weird crystal stone things. They put them in a thing, and the person on Earth would know that they're going to take over their body for a bit, and they go vroom, and they could see, hear, and feel through the other person's body, just like that.
Yeah, it was Stargate Universe. They ended up on the ancient spaceship Destiny, several billion light years distant away from the Milky Way galaxy. And then they had to figure out a way of getting back to Earth.
That's why they used the stones.
Yeah. So I've just found another site that is talking about some of the experiments that went on inside Montauk.
I've just found a bit about some of the experiments they was allegedly doing on the children in there, but I'll let you go with this one.
Well, this one's on the New York Post. But what they're doing is they're talking about other people that have claimed to have worked there. And it's the rumours took hold in 1992, so it was 11 years after the military base had closed. Where Montauk Project Experiments in Time by Preston Nichols told of a sinister Nazi-style experiments that meddled genetically and psychologically with kidnapped local boys. Historian Henry Osmers laments how the conspiracy theories have brought in gawkers who ignore the official military history of the area, one that dates back to the Revolutionary War in favour of hunting down aliens. Another local, Paul Fagan, spent 14 years exploring Camp Hero and painstakingly researching government documents at the National Archives in Manhattan. He told the New York Post that there may be nuclear reactors secretly buried at the site, installed around 1958 as part of the Cold War era Army nuclear power program. Fagan suspects that the conspiracy theories about Camp Hero may have been planted to deflect from the possible reactor. And then there's Lafreno, the 53-year-old who grew up in Montauk and now works as Parks employee at Camp Hero. He also sincerely believes he's one of the lost and tortured Montauk boys popularized in the book.
Oh, well, just hear it. It was called the Montauk Boys Program, the series of experiments they did. And trying to write. Nichols tried to harness his adept subject's powers in the Montauk chair to conduct mind control experiments using the special radio dishes at Camp Hero. And this is where the other children came in and the Montauk Boys Program. He writes of other boys being brought in and experimented on. Some were sent through a portal, which we just spoke about, into the unknown of space-time. These abductees were known as Montauk Boys, and since Nichols and Bielek, whoever Bielek is, started speaking about their regained memories after Long Island men had rediscovered them, that they were frequently abducted from their homes by Camp Hero scientists who wanted to break them psychologically so that they could implant subconscious commands. So like sleepers. One was to open up a vortex for time travel, and another was to collect and amplify the energy of fear generated from the Montauk Boys. Many Montauk Boys were lost forever to this program.
Well, according to this guy, he wasn't.
Well, no, he definitely wasn't.
He actually, the New York Post wanted to actually find out a little bit more about this guy who was claiming.
What's his surname?
Lafreno, Joe Lafreno. he actually works at the Camp Hero State Park, and he told the New York Post, "I was hypnotized by a certified hypnotist for about 40 minutes, and all the memories flooded back. They did a very bad thing to us out there. We were just little kids. They had no right to experiment on us. It was very dark, very evil thing." He believes he was abducted and abused during the summer of 1980 and possibly during the summer of 1981 when he was 12 or 13. He recalled under hypnosis that a local boy who no one knew very well invited him to bike to the base. The first time, Lafreno said there were two men waiting, dressed in civilian clothes. They ushered the boys into a sunken house on the base. Later, he said he and other boys were brought underground through Battery 113, one of the sealed gunneries left from World War II. He remembers lying on a table with wires coming out of him like electrodes. They analysed us like animals. He said there were up to 50 other kids there. He believed some of them were later killed. It would be easy to write him off as a kook, but he was gainfully employed at the park, has a steady girlfriend, and appears to have a solid relationship with his kids. Locals call him a friend. He said that while under hypnosis, he went to the location he remembered with another parks employee, Charlie, who was also interviewed by the Post, and there they found the remnants of the sunken house from his visions.
You have just basically what you've just said is tied in with another alleged Montauk boy, Stuart Swerdlow.
Yes.
And his story involves being kidnapped as a teenager from his Long Island home, taken to Montauk base, subjected to a variety of experiments. And these are his words: beatings, a lot of torture, electrical shock, burials, near drownings. They bring you to the point of death, and then they would save you. And the person doing this would be your rescuer or God, and would say, "I'm the one that saved you, and remember that." And that became your handler, your programmer. Swerdlow recalls being part of some horrific experiments whilst at the Montauk facility. The walls were very damp, oozing water, you said about the underwater room. So it appeared to be deep underground or even underwater. I was always on this cold, hard table. Sometimes there'd be other people around me, either my age or older, and electrodes were put into me and injections. So that corroborates what you've just said as well.
Yeah. I mean, this article mentions and Nichols. So it. I mean, I can actually understand the military trying to make it look like any old fishing village. That is by the by.
Yeah, well, there was a ship, wasn't there, that in the Second World War, that an Australian ship that put trees and everything all over the ship because they got caught in Japanese waters, and they made it when they put it right by the coast, so it looked like part of the island, and they would only move at night, and they eventually got their way back to a base near Australia.
Yeah,
can't remember what the ship was called. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is, like some of the allegations are, I wouldn't be surprised if there is something like a nuclear reactor down there. And that would explain why it's covered in concrete.
Also, you'd need something that can pump out, for back then, you'd need something back then that could pump out a hell of a lot of power for especially for the Montauk chair and doing the portals.
But could this be where Tesla came into it?
Definitely, because he was experimenting with time travel and folding space, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was also involved with unlimited power supplies.
Yeah. Well, so, it's there. If the governments would stop letting the greedy people supply all the energy, then perhaps we might have unlimited energy one day.
I can't remember his name now. There's a guy on TikTok. He generates his own electricity using Tesla's experiments. I can't remember what his name is. Can you remember what his name is? It's Dr. something, wasn't it?
Dr. Who?
It's an American lad. I can't remember what his name is now, but he's got a very strange voice, and he does all of the same things that Tesla was doing with the Tesla coils and and stuff like that, and he's earthed all his experiments to his swimming pool.
Okay, well,
And really weird.
I've just found where was it? Right, you know that Duncan guy was in the Montauk chair, going into anybody's body anywhere around the world. After several years of experimenting with Duncan in the Montauk chair, Nichols claims that they could reliably travel to other times and places, even to Mars. Eventually, they were able to program Duncan with some basic commands so that the poor kid didn't need to be confined to the chair all the time. At one point, however, Nichols' superiors told him to turn on the Montauk chair and leave it running through the whole of August 12, 1983. As the story goes, by having another time travel machine switched on, the Montauk project successfully created a time wormhole, which you were talking about, to 1943 with power at both ends. Nichols kept the Duncan of 1943 away from the Duncan of 1963, but quickly realized that time travel was way too complex and far too dangerous to be messing around with. He and 3 colleagues hatched a plan to use Duncan to shut down the project.
And that in itself was bizarre, because where's the evidence of what they did? Is that buried underground, and that's why it's all encased in concrete?
Or is it not? Or is it certain bits that are encased in concrete to make it look like it has been, and they've just got other entrances, and the government are still doing their experiments?
Well, the allegation was that to shut it down, part of the experiment was that he was able to materialize things. And these things would be able to be materialized in any area at any time. And apparently the plan was to get him to materialize something in the base to actually destroy it, but rather than inside the underground part of the base, it actually came out on the surface and was destroying everything it came across. Oddly enough, except for the radar.
Well, I'm just reading that here. This is in the words of the people who shut it down. We finally decided we'd had enough of the whole experiment. The contingency program was activated by someone approaching Duncan whilst he was in the chair and simply whispering, "The time is now." At that moment, Duncan would let a monster loose from his subconscious, and the transmitter actually portrayed a hairy monster, possibly me. It was big, hairy, hungry, and nasty, but it didn't appear underground in the null point. As you've just said, it showed up somewhere on the base. It would eat anything it could find, and it smashed everything in sight. Several different people saw it, but, and this is the weird thing, almost every single one of them described a totally different beast. Nichols then had to smash all of the equipment that powered the Montauk chair before the beast disappeared back into nothingness. And that incident, plus a successful time anchor that was built between August the 12th, 1943 and August 12th, 1983, ensured that the project would be shuttered. Employees were then brainwashed, and in 1984, the lower levels of the base were filled in with concrete.
Exactly.
Reading more and more into this, it's well, there's the alien link. Aliens! The alien link's in there. There's always got to be an alien link. I'll let you read about the aliens. Come on.
What about the aliens? I haven't got the email up. I can't get it up, can I?
You know there's tablets for that, don't you? Right. At all Bielk, Nichols, and Swerdlow claim to have seen extraterrestrials while at the underground Camp Hero facility. But, well, there were quite a number of aliens at Montauk, said Bielk. Some were on a semi-permanent basis, and some of them were just visitors that came in and looked at what they wanted to see and then went back home. There were little greys there, which I suspected were degenerated humans from out of the future. There's quite a lot of people, school of thought, think that the greys are actually us from the future. Large grey.
I think they're us from the future.
Well, large grey aliens, which are a different species, were also at Montauk, and they were highly intelligent. There were definitely alien beings at Nichols, at Non-Talk Nikos said, we had the little greys and the larger greys, as well as a variety of reptilian beings. The large greys didn't want anything to do with me because they couldn't reach me telepathically. When I entered the room, they would leave. They were the strangest thing that I ever saw. At that point, I was beginning to doubt my own sanity. But they were experimented on with LSD.
Exactly.
So is a lot of what they've reported stuff that was implanted in them, so that if they did come out with it or it was found, that's what they remember because they were told to remember that, so it make them look like they were cuckoo.
Yep. Oh, you're on drugs? Yeah, right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. They are all corroborating with each other. So if one was cuckoo, then why would the other one have exactly the same recollection as the cuckoo one?
Well, the chain of thought would be that everybody was experimented on LSD. So anybody that was claims that they were abducted and experimented on in that area would have all been experimented with the same stuff. So if you get 50 people, pile them into a warehouse and say, right, we're going to do this experiment, but first we need to give you this. All those 50 people are going to have LSD given to them. They're all going to get the tablet. They're all going to digest it, and it's going to affect them. But then, obviously, you would look at how it's affected each individual person. And the fact is that it would have affected them in different ways.
Exactly. Well, you wouldn't have all of them saying the same bloody thing. Even with mass hysteria, you still get different reports. You wouldn't have the same thing.
But wouldn't it also go down the same lines of the fight or flight situation? If one person goes, oh my God, there's a monster, and the power of suggestion gets put into everybody else, and then they start hallucinating it as well.
Yeah, that's the mass hysteria.
The mass hysteria. But so that would be how you would get all 50 people all seeing the same thing, because all it takes is that one person to go, oh my God, there's a monster.
If you'd let me finish, the experiments that have been done on mass hysteria, that's what I was trying to get at, is although they all say they've seen the same thing, when they did in-depth reports on all these people, they all said it was slightly different. Although they said, yeah, it's a big hairy thing over there. When they were actually spoken to, that was different about it. On the next person, that was different, and that was different, and that was different. But these three people, they've all corroborated each other, and everything that you've just found and read out as well has all corroborated each other.
Yeah.
Which to me, what was that song? Things that make you go,
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they did mass hysteria experiments at the turn of the 19th century up until about, I think it was 1930s, and they did all that because they were trying to use it as a way of crowd control and doing that. But that's when they then found that when they interviewed each person individually, although they also they heard somebody say there's whatever, they turned and looked, but everything they saw was slightly different to the next person.
I still prefer crowd control experiments using brown noise.
Hang on, I know white noise, but brown noise, is that the sound of somebody farting? What?
No, brown noise, it was a experiment done by police departments and the military, and it was supposedly to be a sound tone that was so low that it vibrated your insides and made you poo yourself.
Infrasound.
Basically.
Nice.
But it was so hard. It's difficult to hear, but all it does is just releases the muscles, and you end up pooping yourself. And
that would take a fight out of anybody, wouldn't it? Oh, I'm gonna.
You've got 100 soldiers running towards you, and they all end up pooping themselves. How many of them are going to carry on running towards you?
Well, they're going to be walking rather awkwardly.
But. You know, I mean, obviously, we know the likes of Adolf Hitler did different experiments with different methods to try and incapacitate the enemy. And we were just as bad. We'd done the same things with different gases and chemicals and stuff like that. Chemical warfare was strife right up through the ages.
But
But to actually use sound, and we've been looking at that for the last 100 years, using sound as a weapon, and even with basic methods, you get 1,000 police officers in a line and you get them all to shout back all at once. That's a hell of a racket.
Oh God, yeah. Well, it's like it was the army that started doing those experiments, and then they started doing experiments with microwaves on crowd control, and there is a microwave gun which they're not allowed to use, but it will warm you up nicely on the inside and make you, oh God, and then you have to go. Can you imagine that though?
The person using it's accidentally whacked it up on at full power.
Oh look, they all look like a load of oven-ready turkeys now.
You get human beings popping in the street.
Oh, that would be. Oh, can you imagine that? Hang on. Sorry, I was just. Oh, yeah.
Maybe I could do that for a Spookinori.
You could. That'd be a good one there. That would be a good one.
Call it pressure cooker.
Oh dear. What do you reckon to Camp Hero? Because I'm reading more and more about it. And when you look at all the stuff that they've talked about in there, child abductions, torture, extraterrestrial beings, interdimensional travel, Nazi scientists, UFOs, reptilian beings, a Sasquatch-like beast, which Jay should like, and all the rest, and you've got Stranger Things. You've got every single series.
Yeah, you have, basically, because it's all time travel and whatnot. Obviously, between season 3 and season 4. He travels through space and time. Yeah. Because we've seen, most of us have seen the teaser trailers for season 4. And the old sheriff. Well,
was there somebody in a Russian prison?
Yeah. Well, that was the sheriff from season 3. He ends up in Siberia or Russia or wherever it is. So obviously the experiments that are there has moved him from one continent to another.
Hey, Ethan.
So, that would that would fall in place with the rumours that have been going on at Camp Hero. And I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical, because you can say that about any military establishment that has been closed down. And we know, like, places like Lakenheath or Woodbridge and places like that in my local area, when they closed down, it's they had nuclear weapons there. Well, yeah, they had nuclear weapons there, but then they moved them when they closed the site down. Don't mean they're still there. An empty nuclear silo doesn't necessarily mean that it's active and there's a nuclear missile sitting in there ready and waiting to go. It doesn't mean that there's necessarily been military or government cover-ups of experiments and sinister deeds going on. It's, it's Chinese whispers. One person could just turn around and go, I walked past the base the other day, and out of one of the hangars, I heard this really, really high-pitched scream. I've never heard anything like it. And that then turns into Chinese whispers, and it passes from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. And the story gets changed to, he heard a strange noise, to he saw something really weird that screamed really strange. And then it goes on to the next person, and that person relays it onto somebody else, and they say, it was big and black and had 5 arms and made this really strange noise. And by the time it's got thousands of people down the line, it's converged into some alien being that's come down into a flying saucer. The American government has captured it, put it in a hangar, and started doing experiments on it.
So, well, what's your final thoughts on Camp Hero?
I'm going to go on the fence on that. I'm going to go 50-50. I think it's a bit strange that they cement the place in, but leave the manhole covers up,
and then they open the top part, the above bit as a national park.
Allow the surface to go back to national park, and then the underground is still in control of the military. That, to me, doesn't make sense. And on the business with ticks and Lyme disease, Why would you open it as a national park for people to walk around? You can, I wouldn't personally want to go into a normal park if I knew there were going to be ticks dropping out the trees on me that could have Lyme disease on them. I wouldn't go there.
No, exactly. And also, you got to think that when it was a base, what did they use to control all the ticks and stuff? And didn't they have all the signs? Why are there no signs from the 40s and 50s saying be careful of ticks and Lyme disease?
That's probably because they introduced them after they closed the base down.
I think there was definitely something going on there.
Yeah.
There was definitely something involving Tesla purely because Camp Hero was involved with the Philadelphia experiment, and that was Tesla technology. So that, tying in with the Montauk chair, it's very, very plausible that there was something going on there. Whether they were kidnapping boys and experiment.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we know that the governments of the world had been testing people with psychic abilities.
That's why so many owners go missing, isn't it?
We know that for a fact. So, I mean, there was an article there that stated that a lot of them were street urchins.
Yeah, that's right.
They were homeless kids that were just living off the street. So, were they just taking those kids and giving them the drugs and that to enhance the psychic abilities or to bring the psychic abilities out and using them? And one perfect example of that is the Stephen King film Hearts in Atlantis.
I've not seen that.
It is a wicked film starring Anthony Hopkins. And he is basically one of these guys that has psychic abilities. And he was being used by American government to eavesdrop on Russian affairs. And he managed to escape.
Well, that's also like the... remember we did the show about the CIA report on the cold reading?
Yeah.
There's all light shining on me. I just had my bike alarm going off, so I'm just checking on the CCTV. It was a cat, right?
So I mean, I think all of these things, they all revolve around each other. MK Ultra and all these psychic remote viewings and things like that. I think they're all revolving around the same bunch of experiments. But the problem is obviously once it gets made public, they've got to cover it up like they've done with the UFO situation.
Yeah.
They've got to do something to try and dull it down so that they don't panic too many people and have the general population turn against the government. The government's job is to get the people to trust them. And if they haven't got trust, the government don't stand a chance.
These days, I'm sorry, but if you're going to trust the government these days, you're a bloody idiot. Because, like we said about the disclosure report, no, we can't see anything that suggests anything comes from another planet. Oh, we think that these people are a threat to our national security. Hang on a minute, you just said that it's not real.
Yeah.
Make your mind up.
We can't see anything coming from this planet. So if it can't come from this planet, which planet did it come from? Oh, I don't know.
They reckon in the alleged leaked report, but you know yourself, for any major government report that comes out, something gets leaked.
Yeah.
By accident. And in it, they've said that every single video, the Tic Tac videos, the one where their own fighters have chased them, this, that, and the other, the people that have watched them and investigated it have said, no, there's nothing there to suggest it came from another planet. My cat's watched it and knows it's something that's from another fucking planet.
And it's not something from this planet, that's for certain.
Definitely not.
So if it's not from this planet, where is it from?
Or is it? Or is that a play on words? It may not be from another planet. Is it from another time or another universe? Parallel.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have no idea what we'll be talking about next week, but I'm sure we'll think up of something. What you got planned?
Probably sorting out the houses, I should say. I've got 2 houses to get sorted.
On Sunday.
Oh, and I got car boot on Sunday.
I haven't been to a good car boot sale in years.
My mother isn't all that savvy with how to sell stuff or knows the prices of things. And so she's turned around to me and she said, can you come up and help us with the boot sale so I know what I'm doing? So I said, well, you're going to have to do the first hour or two or whatever, and then as soon as I get up there, I'll give you a hand.
Yeah.
So,
Enjoy and have fun. I shall be back on Sunday. I've already spoken to Taylor, and we are going to have a show this Sunday. The only reason we didn't last Sunday is because she's gone off up to London that day, and so far this week she's forgotten every single time I said we're going to do a show. So we are doing one Sunday, 8 p.m. And then, what have you got? Anything coming up in the week, paranormal wise?
we are, Truth Beyond Paranormal, filming episode, God knows what, on the Saturday, on the 3rd. It's a busy month, because I've got filming for Truth Beyond Paranormal on the 3rd, my public event at Harwich Redoubt Fort on the 10th, and then Skegness for the Paranormal Convention with East Anglian Paranormal Investigations on the 17th. And places are still available, by the way, for our Harwich Redoubt Fort in Essex, if anybody's interested. £25 per person, including snacks.
Andy and his missus want to go on one. Have you got Andy on your Facebook? If not, can you send me the link and I'll send it to him?
Yeah, okay. And I had to turn away. Someone asked me if I wanted to go to the Leeds Corn Exchange on the 24th, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but no, for me to get there, it's 3.5 hours drive away. I would need to stay overnight, and there's no way I was going to pay out to stay overnight, and then
you could have stayed here.
I didn't think of that, but because
just over a half-hour drive from here.
Yeah, but the problem is I'm family orientated, mate. You know, and 3 weeks away on a trot, I didn't want to do a 4th.
That's fair enough.
So, you know, I'm filming on 3rd, event on the 10th, and then the paranormal convention the next week. I didn't want to fill up the whole every Saturday of that month being away from the kids.
No, that's fair enough.
So I'm just like, well, thanks for thinking of me, but I'm gonna have to decline the offer.
Well, anytime you get them up here, come and stay here.
Yeah, and then on the 28th, I am back on Past PTS Radio again, for part 3 of my interview with Brandon on Past PTS in America. So that's quite an interesting one, because that starts at 11 p.m. and finishes at midnight for us. Only it's sort of earlier on in the evening for them, so it's not so bad, but it's pretty good.
Cool. All right then. Well, we shall think up. We'll have a look. We'll put our heads together and think of something for next Friday, and then I suppose we better start getting some guests on as well. That'd be quite good. Jay is a really interesting guy to have on. Very interesting. So anyway, on that note, I shall say it's goodbye from him. Bloody hell, I did it.
Hey, and it's a goodbye from him.
And we will see you on Sunday and Friday. So thank you for listening, everybody over here. Thank you for listening on Facebook and YouTube. So, James. See you later. Bye.
Bye.